All right, welcome in. I am here with two-time Courage Award recipient, uh, Jacksonville Jaguars 2015, 2019 with the Chicago Bears, Allen Robinson. Obviously not a, we know here at the Black Courage Award Foundation that it's not normally an award that you want to win, but for somebody winning it twice, it's got to be somewhat special, recognizing that two different teams picked you for the Black Courage Award.
Definitely, I think that's the special part about it is, being able to have the impact of, showing the ability to come back and handle adversity, going through an injury. Obviously injuries in this league happen so often, but they aren't easy at all. Some injuries are a lot bigger than others. Actually both of the injuries that I did have were pretty significant, injuries that I had to have surgery for, injuries that, took some time to come back from that put me out for the current season that I was involved in, so it wasn't easy. So to be able to be honored by my teammates, chosen by the teammates and coaches and voted for, by my peers, I think those are some of the most special awards in this league are the ones, that are voted on by your peers.
Yeah, and you look back at that, and obviously we're talking, 2015. So a little bit way back, you look at that first experience, you win that award, and the emotions and how you felt there. Was it any different the second time around from the first time around, or was it kind of the same reaction that you had, when it was Jaguars and Bears?
Actually, I would say it probably was a little bit more special for me the second time around. The second time around, I was coming off of a pretty significant injury, and I remember, the trials and tribulations of going through that injury, just how long it took, the adversity of going to rehab and stuff every day. At that time that I suffered the injury, going into Chicago, I was coming upon a free agent, when I actually got injured, so to be able to go to Chicago and kind of finish my rehab there and just be able to come back from it, it was big, it was something that because when you win an award like that, I thought back to all the times where I'm on the training table, the days where the grind of coming back off an injury are very gruesome, very tough, they aren't easy. And I thought about those times, and the injury that I had the second time was a little bit more significant than the first time around. Again, not to diminish the first time around at all, but it was a real honor, and it was one of those things that, I was thankful for the training staff that we had to be able to get me back on the field. I also had to give a little bit of grace to myself, being able to, indulge in the rehab each and every day and staying locked in and committed to getting back on the field and to being 100%.
All right, and you look back at it now. You got two trophies. Do you have them somewhere special? Are they displayed together? Are they in separate rooms? What are we doing with those trophies that you have?
So I have them both at my parents' house.
Gotcha.
And for me, moving around to a couple of teams and things like that, those are two trophies that I didn't want to be moved around, that I wanted to be pretty stationary and have a place that they could live, and not be bounced around, So a lot of my most memorable things, like like my last college jersey, some of my college awards and different things like that are at my parents' house, so that's where both of those are, sitting nice there.
That's a smart idea. Let mom and dad take care of them things until
Yeah.
you finally hang it up and settle down a little bit. But obviously still going. Have been able to kind of keep the career going for the past couple years, and end up back in your hometown in Detroit, and the team is having probably the most successful run it's might have ever had, and you're now officially a part of that. Why was it important to you to go back to Detroit, kind of where it all started for you, way back in the day?
Um, you know, I had always thought, and people always asked, would I ever end up back in Detroit? That was my parents, whenever free agency would come around and some of my family and friends and things like that, and I always thought that, whenever that time would come, it wouldn't be forced and it would be a special time, and right after training camp this year when I got released from the Giants, I got the call from Detroit, and it was a very special opportunity. Again, being able to step into this culture, step into this environment, it's been special, and I think everything happens for a reason, and I think that just like I told my parents, I never forced it. I knew that the right time would come, and sure enough this year, being able to step into the locker room with a great group, being able to be around a great coaching staff, and a great culture, who goes about everything the right way, and I'm very glad to be here, and it's special, and I don't take those things for granted, not only being back home in Detroit and being able to play for the pride of the city and of this organization, but again, like I said before, the most important thing is the coaches and players that we have in this building.
All right, now you gotta be honest with me. You're playing around the league. You're in LA. You were in Chicago. Did any little part of you kind of still root for the Lions, even though you're on a different team, or is it something that now that you're back in Detroit, you can finally embrace it?
Well, now that I'm back in Detroit, I can embrace it. Being in Chicago when you're going up against this team, twice a year, I don't think any bit of you can kind of root for another team in your division. You're at battle, against those teams. But again, being back here, like I said before, it's special. Again, growing up in the city of Detroit, being able to see just the trials and tribulations of just the city of Detroit, and how it's overcame a lot and how it's grown over the past years, which is very similar to the Detroit Lions. And at the same time, my dad worked for Ford all my life, so he would come to work, sometimes when he would bring me to work or bring me to his office, it was right across the street from the Lions facility in Dearborn. So I always, I never got a chance to go to the Lions facility, but I knew where it was at, and so on and so forth, so it's very special, this area, where our facility is in, and everything like that, because it brings back a lot of memories from when I was younger, just kind of being around this area, seeing my dad, go to work every day, at Ford Motor Company, so on and so forth. So it's special, and it's a lot of, little things, that I cherish, being back here.
All right, with a good transition there, and we're going to get into some questions from the kids here, from the Courage House here in Baltimore, St. Vincent's Villa. And the first one I is always ask is, who was your biggest inspiration growing up? Obviously, you've shown a lot of inspiration in your life, overcoming adversity. Winning this award is all about that inspiration and being a role model of some kids in need across the Courage House network. But who was that person for you growing up?
Two people come to mind for me, and it's tough to decide between the two, but I would say my dad definitely, and also my cousin Kevin Glenn. He played in the CFL for I think 18 seasons at quarterback. So I grew up when I was about 5 or 6, being able to go to his games. And I remember being a little kid and at family gatherings and family events, tossing the ball with my cousin. It was such a special thing, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps, in some form. At that young age, I didn't know where the game of football could possibly take me, but seeing my cousin, reach the level, and even for me, it wasn't the NFL, but it was the CFL, and I just knew how much it meant to him being able to play professionally, and come back and kind of inspire some of his cousins and so on and so forth, to then be a big inspiration for me to be able to get to the NFL. I always thought that was cool, and being able to be a youngster as he's coming back around, and him talking to me and spending time with me as a kid, went a long way for me.
Yeah. All right. All right. Next question. Question from the kids, and this one might get a little tougher for you. Go to karaoke song.
Go to karaoke song. Ooh, that's tough.
Told you.
Hmm. I'll have to I'll have to think a little bit about that. That's tough. Um, can I get some time to think about that one?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll come back to it. I'm going to circle back to it. All
Okay,
right.
perfect.
Favorite flavor of ice cream.
Chocolate,
All right.
chocolate.
Chocolate.
And ironically, I don't really like actual chocolate that much, like actual chocolate bars and
Okay.
chocolate candy, but I really do like chocolate ice cream.
There you go. There you go.
I think, oh, and I also like chocolate milk. So I think those are
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
really my
That's the
favorite.
milk combination, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes it. Yeah. All right. You're been around the league a long time now. You've played up against some great players. Who is that one matchup that you get the most excited for, or the one matchup that you look back on and we're most pumped to go up against a guy? I'm guessing it's probably going to be a defensive back of some sorts. Is there somebody that stands out to you that that calendar comes
Oh,
out? You
definitely.
look at the schedule. Who's that guy?
Well, the one that I always think about whenever I kind of think about my career and some of the matchups that really inspired me. When I say inspired me to be better, that I immediately reflect to, is going up against Darrelle Revis. Actually, that was in 2015 season. We played against the Jets. I was in Jacksonville. Um, Going up against him, he lined up across from me every single snap of the game. And as a young player, watching Darrelle Revis and watching him cover some of the greatest players of all time Randy Moss, Chad Johnson, just some guys that come to mind, and to then finally be in the NFL and have him matching me and him being my matchup for the entire game, was very special. And also I had a pretty good game that game, which also felt really good as well. And we end up exchanging jerseys after the game.
Awesome.
So I have a Darrell Revis jersey in my house. So I'm pretty excited about that. I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame yet, but I know he'll probably be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So to
Right.
be
Yeah.
able to go against him, was a pretty special honor.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you said it as a young guy going in, and that's the ultimate sign of respect is when one of the best cornerbacks of all time has to follow you around.
Yeah,
So
and they followed me, literally every single snap. There wasn't a snap that I was lined up that Darrell Revis wasn't in front of me.
is there any point in that moment in that game do you remember back of like, come on, give me a break? Can I get somebody else out
Yeah,
here?
yeah. I actually remember. I think either he had a pass breakup or maybe an interception early in that game, and I came back to the sideline just a little frustrated. And my receiver coach was just like, "Hey, just listen, like that. That is Darrell Revis. It's a long game. It'll be a long 4 quarters, but just continue to stay locked in, keep going, and ultimately, I end up having a pretty good game. I think I had 6 or 7 catches for 120 yards. So it was a big day for me.
Yeah, not a lot of people do that against Darrell Revis. So that's definitely you keep that one close to the chest. All right. Looking at your career, you make it to the NFL. You've been able to kind of take care of yourself, take care of your family, sign big free agent contracts. But is there one purchase that you've had since you've been in the NFL? It doesn't have to be the biggest, doesn't have to be the flashiest, but one purchase that kind of looks back to you that's kind of your favorite thing that you've been able to afford yourself since becoming a professional football player?
That's a really tough question as well. I may not say actual purchase, but what I will say is when I was in Chicago, and we had our foundation going, um, being able to put reading rooms inside of boys and girls clubs in the inner city of Chicago was pretty special. It was something that we had set out as a foundation early on when I was in Jacksonville. And ultimately, we weren't able to get that done in Jacksonville, but being able to do that in Chicago and have very nice reading spaces and workspaces and a great collection of books for the boys and girls clubs that we did that for in Chicago. It was special and it was an honor. It was just a true testament of the work that the foundation had put in. Us being able to really get that done. It was fun. The kids loved it. So that's one thing that when I think about, when it comes to time, energy, resources, and things like that I really put some time into. Those things come to mind.
That's amazing, and then you love to hear those stories of being able to give back. And I followed your career, and I remember us on our social media and me posting the articles about you doing those. So that's a really cool throwback to
I
something that
appreciate it.
when I first started here and got to see some of those things that you guys were doing in the community, and what got me hooked in working with the foundation long term as well. All right, I'm gonna circle back to you now. You got to give me a good answer now. Go to karaoke song.
I thought about it. Yo by Chris Brown.
All right, I love it. I love it. All right, I'm gonna take two more questions for you, and they're gonna be a little bit personal. First, from Detroit, you're back in Detroit now. Played a good chunk of your career in Chicago. Detroit style pizza, Chicago deep dish. Which one are you?
Oh, that's easy. Detroit style. Any day of the week.
There
Any
you
day
go.
of the week.
All right. Now, in honor of Penn State having their whiteout game coming up this weekend, I'm actually attending my first whiteout game. Just had to experience it for myself. So I need to know you're going back to your college career. Would you rather play whiteout game at Penn State or conference championship game in Detroit? Which one are you picking?
Oh, that's tough.
Told you, I'm going to throw some hard ones at you.
Ooh, I gotta go conference championship. When you get into that stage of and those heightened games, it's nothing more special than those. I think about some divisional games that I've played in and different things like that. Those games, that's what you live for and playing. Again, although, Penn State is very special and dear to my heart, I gotta go with the conference championship.
All right, there you go. There he is. Allen Robinson, two-time Courage Award recipient, one of the few players in NFL history to win the Ed Block Courage Award twice. We certainly appreciate you taking a couple minutes to chat with us. Good luck the rest of the season, and looking forward to watching those Lions. They're very excited to follow from the outside, even as not a fan of the team, but just enjoy watching them on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays and every game the Jets play.
I appreciate it, man. It's been an honor being an award winner.
Thank you.